A member of PJS Jazz Society and a number of other things, so I'm just going to read this email and you'll figure it out. PJS Jazz Society, which is a jazz society in Mount Vernon, has been presenting jazz at affordable prices for over 30 years. That's before I was born. It's our way of making this wonderfully creative, brilliantly executed music accessible to the community. It is our desire to expose everyone to the wonders of jazz, America's classical music. On February 9th, 2014, we will present our monthly Second Sunday Jazz Series, this time featuring the Desron Douglas Quintet, which is also called the New Jazz Workshop, after Charlie Mingus's group. The band members that will be performing are relatively young, and he put relatively in parentheses, so I don't know what that means. Relatively young, virtuosos of jazz, especially bebop and hard bop. Their current CD is called Underground. As an aside, I assisted my friend J.T. Chandler on the photo shoot for the album. I told you he was a tremendous photographer. We showed some of his photography the last time around, so he is awesome. He does exquisite work. The band consists, I'll have 3 photos in the Cultural Expressions Art Show, which opens at the Mount Vernon Public Library on February 11th, 2014. And the address given is 28 South 1st Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York. And I have a phone number here. I suppose you can contact that phone number. It's 914-668-1840. And we're also going to be discussing NCS New York. He'll tell you more about that because he's very smart and he knows these things and it's his stuff. With that, if you guys have my opening ready, you can roll that, and when we come back, I'll be talking to the one, the only, the legendary John Brathwaite. Where the victim is now the perpetrator and the perpetrator is now the victim. And that just drives me crazy. And we're back. And I did notice that he has like a whole bunch of other stuff coming up. It's not just where I ended. But be that as it may, we're going to talk to John. John is going to get us up on music, get us up on jazz, get us up on photography, get us up on what's happening. And I'm going to stop talking and let him talk. John Brathwaite, it's a pleasure, my brother.
Glad to be back. Glad to be back here.
Welcome to 30
This is really fine. Let me start out by just telling you what's upcoming, because on February 9th, PJS Jazz Society in Mount Vernon, we've been in operation for 30 years, and we've been trying to present straight-ahead jazz for the community at affordable prices. And so we've had the likes of, some of the top names in jazz who have performed there. Dr. Billy Taylor, yes, Dr. Billy Taylor played there. Wycliffe Gordon, Russell Malone, Lou Donaldson, and many, many others. Right. This time out, we have some young, I call them young Turks, right, from Hartford, Desron Douglas and his New Jazz Workshop. Right. What is interesting about this group is that these men have, almost all of them, have been mentored by the late, great Jackie McLean.
Wow!
At the Hart School, and they are all his prodigy. And he has sent forth in his, since he's passed it, he sent forth so many wonderful, wonderful jazz musicians. They got it. They really have it.
Wow.
And they're not like starting out.
Jackie McLean.
Yes, Jackie McLean was a pioneering jazz saxophone player, and he played with the likes with all of the major jazz musicians. And was a pioneer himself, and along the way he started the music school department in Hartford, Connecticut, and that became the Jackie McLean School. And then he and his wife created a community organization also. And well, these young artists were young kids, you know, and not even teenagers. Some of them when they started out with him, and he mentored them, and they went on to become great musicians. Desron Douglas plays all over the world. He is much in demand. If you look on the back of your favorite CDs, you will see his name over and over and over again. As with many of the other artists who are performing. His co-founder, the New Jazz Workshop was founded when he was an undergraduate. Mm-hmm. And his co-founder, as I understand it, is Lummy Spine, who is a lifelong friend. They grew up together, and they been playing.
What instrument does Desron play?
Desron plays bass.
Bass. He's a bass. Well, yeah, that's the reference to Charlie Mingus.
Yes.
Okay.
And Lummy plays saxophone, both alto and tenor. And also on trumpet, I recall that it is Josh Evans.
Alto and tenor?
Yeah, Lummy plays both.
That's unique for it's more common.
It might
to
be alto
play
and soprano.
Soprano and alto.
I think it might be soprano.
Right,
I've heard these guys so many times it gets mushed sometimes.
Right.
But then Josh Evans, who is a very powerful trumpet player, he's also from that same Jackie McLean school. I sometimes call them the Hartford Mafia.
Right. Yeah.
They are really great musicians. And as it turns out, they play. Josh was playing a set in Mount Vernon at another location this past Sunday, and his musicality was outstanding. He's just every time I hear him, he's better and better. And
what kind of response do you get
for our concerts?
Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Nice.
It should be stronger, and that's one reason why we like to reach out to the community and beyond. Because we know that we like to reach all jazz art lovers. And one of our issues is that we're in Mount Vernon. To many people, that's like saying you're in the outer provinces. They find it difficult. People who live in the city tend not to have motor vehicle transportation, which makes people who live in the suburbs have multiple modes of transportation.
I used to work in Mamaroneck, and I would think of Mount Vernon as where the last group of rich black people were. You know, the richest of the black people, which is the poorest of the white people, because it goes from Mount Vernon to Larchmont and then Mamaroneck, and they get richer and richer as they go further and further until you get to Mamaroneck, and it's like the yacht club and stuff like that. Yeah. You know, so that's how I used to think of Mamaroneck.
Yeah.
I mean, money earning Mount Vernon. Yeah.
Well, Mount Vernon is interested as a city in promoting jazz, and it wants to be instrumental in making jazz significant in Mount Vernon. And the city, most of the towns in Westchester in the summertime have not jazz festivals, music festivals, varying musics. Mount Vernon's is generally speaking jazz, R&B, and you know that sort of thing. Right. And so during the summertime, they'll have a public music and get a chance to hear various people. And it's good for the community. People get out on a warm night, but it also gets people exposed to good musicians. Right. You know.
Right. At the Grammys. There are awards that they like televise and awards they don't. And they awarded some of the jazz awards. They gave an award to Herb Albert, you know, But I think that's as much. I think they really don't know who's who or what's what. And Herb Alpert is a name, and plus he made a sizable contribution to the Harlem School of the Arts. So he's in the media. What was interesting, I forget who it was, but there was a group who won for Jazz Song of the Year, and the song that they won for was Green Dolphin Street. You know. Which was a Miles Davis Coltrane tune.
Right.
And you mentioned Billy Taylor. It's bop, but it's very straight ahead in that it's like a very major progression, very melody line-ish, you know. Dun, dun, da, 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 you know. And which was what Billy Taylor was actually like almost famous for. I mean, not only was he an incredible virtuoso artist, you know, but he could like play some melody lines, some just pretty lines that just true. Like make you jealous. Like, how was he getting this from?
Yeah,
you know. And I think that music tastes are changing. If I don't know if you've watched the Grammys. They're a little hard to take, but one of the things that was evident was that there is a different generation that's coming that seems to be smarter, seems to be more worldly, seems to be more political, seems to be more sophisticated, and a lot of the types of music that sustained black people for the last 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years, is now seeming to play itself out, specifically, you know, the gangster and the superficial components that had
Well, I hope that we don't get categorized as only providing that level of music, because jazz itself is very rich in what it offers, and wide and diverse. Don't forget, in the beginning of the 60s, I suspect there was a wide range of incorporating other cultural musical tastes. We had bossa nova, we had some Indian music, we had music from other cultures. So jazz can embrace other genres. But it's important to see that jazz, what it does is it gives the freedom to create and to be creative and expressive. You're not locked into a 4/4 beat, as it were. Right. And so therefore, jazz can stretch and be many places and do many things. I have a friend who plays jazz cello. You know, she's great, and there's so much richness there. You were talking about Dr. Billy Taylor before, and his musical contribution, and how strong, powerful a musician he was. On February 9th, there is a young man, Theo Hill.
Theo Hill, okay.
He's from Philadelphia. He's not one of the mafia, the Hartford people.
Philly is Coltrane territory.
Yes,
yeah.
You got to come and hear this guy play. I heard him. He was playing Sunday at the other club I mentioned. It was called the Baseline in Mount Vernon. He was furious on the piano. Wow! People look at okay, this guy is strong. So it's gonna be one really swinging set. And let me say this too. Our concerts are very interesting. We usually we open up at 5 o'clock, let people get seated and everything, and we have some very promising high school students play, and these kids can cook. So they get a chance to be exposed to playing before a live audience rather than a teacher, you know, and so it helps them. And at about 6 o'clock. The main act goes on, and that 6 o'clock is because if we have a drum set, but if we have to change drum sets because this kid's got to go to school the next day, then we have to allow time for it to break down and set up for the next group. The main group comes on probably no later than 6:15, and they play. and then they have a break, and they play a second set. So people get 2 sets for the evening, and it's just great. It's just great.
Now, a lot of people don't understand that jazz requires so much of an artist. First of all, it's an art form that is designed to be a performance art because it is an improvisational art.
Exactly.
Ever changing. It also requires a higher level of math skills in the approach to the music because you incorporate progressions that utilize all 12 notes of a piano octave as opposed to 7 notes,
yes.
you know, in other types of music. There's also a blues component that requires you to bring a certain amount of soul and emotionalism to it. And it's interpretive, so depending upon the audience, depending upon the vibes, you know. It also requires a certain level of teamsmanship because everyone is playing off of everyone else, and
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
And it's sophisticated, and it inspires you to reach higher and higher as opposed to getting stuck in a rut, you know.
And it's done on the fly.
And it's done on the fly. And it's done on the fly,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you refer to it as America's only
Classical.
classic. Right, right.
Well, I stole that line from Dr. Billy Taylor.
Right,
That was his thing. And some people have a problem with that. They want to make sure it's known as African American
right.
classical music. But
Right.
whichever way you call it, it is our gift to the world, and it's just wonderful music.
Right. And you are correct. It is America's only classical music. Everything else is via Europe or you know through the Catholic Church or whatever, you know. But this is the one classical art form that originated here in America. You know.
That's right. That's right. And but I want to say that it's so important to understand because when we listen to public radio, we lose sight of the fact that the jazz clubs in New York are full. There are lots of jazz clubs in New York. We have many musicians who are playing and looking for places to play.
Right.
But a lot of people take the attitude that if they don't hear it on the radio, that it can't be substantive, but it is.
Right.
And we have so many wonderful musicians who are playing in the area and traveling and so on, and developing new styles and coming up with new themes and so on, that we ought to give those people our ears.
Right.
My attitude is that the audience person I'm looking for PJS is the kind of person that says, well, you say you play jazz? Show me what you got.
Right.
I'll stop. Show me what you got.
Right.
Because we should be that invested in our own cultural music, our own thing, that we should want to care for it and make sure it's nurtured.
Right.
And nurturing means supporting it. It'd be wonderful that the jazz musicians had more and more opportunities to play, to experiment, because if you don't have audiences, you can't grow.
Right.
But if you have audiences that are going to stay with you, you know, let me try this out on you now.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right. You mentioned in the notes that you sent me via email that you are attempting to make jazz affordable to the masses. Traditionally, jazz was the people's music. As a matter of fact, it was the music of democracy or anti-Nazism. You know, it was post-World War II, the music of the world. And it was for the masses of people. I mean, it was in Abbott and Costello movies. It was everywhere. Now, jazz has become something for the elite. And it's not just jazz, music in general, no matter what music you go to, even the rawest rap music, when you go to the performance level, it's basically an audience that is all white and all rich, you know, because you almost need to be rich to be able to afford ticket prices.
That's a problem for many reasons, one of which is that clubs are never big enough to be able to charge a low enough rate so that everybody they can have the high level musicians they want. What happens is that a club, let's say a club has 100 seats. How much can you charge each person at each one of those seats in order to pay the band and cover your other fixed expenses? So there's a problem there. But that doesn't mean that jazz should be expensive. Now, because of circumstances, we present our jazz concerts in the parish hall of a church. And there's a little history to that, because PJS Jazz Society was founded by the Reverend Clinton C. Glenn back around 1980, who was an avid, dyed-in-the-wool jazz fan. He loved jazz. He had a huge collection of jazz. And he tried to introduce jazz as what we call a jazz vesper in the service. And it was that time a largely white congregation, and they would have none of it. So as a compromise, what he did is he formed a group called the Presbyterian Jazz Society. It's a Presbyterian church. And that thrived for many, many years. But later, when we went to file for our 501c3, it was prudent for us to change it from Presbyterian Jazz Society to just PJS Jazz Society. It's the same cast of characters, just a different name. And we've been rolling ever since. So we've had so many wonderful musicians there to play. It's been a joy. We look at the list of all the people who played there. We said, we did that? Yeah, we did that.
When I was growing up, as I was saying before, jazz was accessible to the masses. And there were different levels that even the youngest children could understand, because jazz also incorporated a lot of the greatest lyricists and a lot of the greatest songwriters and whatnot. So you could start off with an Ella Fitzgerald, Tisket a Tasket, and as you progressed, you know, you could learn to appreciate a John Coltrane, or you know, or even a Cecil Taylor, which is, you know, really a wild thing. We don't have those levels. First of all, taught to children on any level. They've removed art and all the arts from most of the schools that our children attend, although they don't remove them from the schools that wealthier white kids attend. You know, I shouldn't even say wealthier white kids, but wealthier kids.
Yeah, that's a problem, because when they're cutting back at schools, they always that they always cut the arts first.
And the arts make you smart.
They cut the arts first. I remember when I was a child in elementary school, they had us all in the auditorium, and they used to play. There was a program called "What to Listen For in Music," and the teacher put the needle on the thing. This is what you listen for, right? And so on. And none of that is done anymore. And so people can't even identify instruments being played. They have no idea. It's just music. They have no idea of what it is, and nor do they have any idea of what is going on and why the person played this way and not some other way. So it's like just confusing to them. But one of the things we're trying to do is get people to understand the music of it, so that they will be able to appreciate it more. The more you know about something, the better you appreciate it, and then the more you can see the beauty of it. You know. So that's one of the goals, and hopefully we'll be able to do something within the school system to encourage kids to want to hear more. and faculty also to want to teach more. So we'll see how it goes.
Right, right. And when you remove art from the school, as I said before, art does indeed make you smarter in a number of ways. And not only was I exposed to artists, jazz artists, you know. I mean, I had all my pop music on the radio, so I was exposed to that. But I was also exposed to jazz musicians at school, classical musicians at school.
Yes.
You know. I think one of the most melodic love songs in classical mode that I've ever heard is a song that Beethoven basically wrote for a woman, that everybody plays a little tune of it, you know, but nobody knows what it is. It's a composition called For Elise.
Yeah.
You know, and it's da 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 da. It's just like a beautiful, beautiful melody line, but it's a love song. It's written for a woman,
Yeah.
you know. When you are exposed to the arts, it makes your math better. When you're exposed to classical writers, it makes your vocabulary better. It makes your understanding of words better, you know, which helps you in everything you do. So when you remove this valuable learning tool from...
You wind up handicapping the kids.
Right. Forever.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But we don't want to handicap them. So we understand that we have to get into their day, so that some part of their day will be touching on some of this. Listen to this, you know. Listen to this CD I have for you, and just, you know, think about it. Because sometimes just being exposed to something starts the germ of curiosity, and that will help people say, well, what else is there like that?
Right.
My best friend at the time we were kids, his father had a big console hi-fi. It was a monaural. That's how long ago this was.
Wow.
And we used to play his father's jazz records on it. And I'll never forget, Sonny Rollins had Way Out West, I think it was called. They played On the Trail, all these Western tunes. And that was a long time ago. And Nat King Cole and all those things. And that stuff stays with you.
It stays
with you.
Bird played an old cowhand that was to die for. I was like, listen to this guy, you know, because it's a quick, tricky tune, you know. And he could play it like, you know, it's like, wow, I never, you know.
Never thought of that.
Right.
But the other thing is we have to always be mindful of is that we don't want people to think of jazz as elitist. Once they think, oh, that's just for those rich people who go to that.
Right.
We don't want that to happen. We want people to say, this is ours. I can understand it, I can enjoy it, and I can listen to it. I may not be able to afford to go to a concert.
Right.
But I can at least enjoy it, and I can go to the library and borrow some CDs and learn something about it and enjoy that. But we don't want people to feel that it's apart from us, it's away from us, it's not part of our experience or our life or anything like that, because then you completely lose people.
I think that's due in large part to the fact that people have a concept of jazz that is not based on listening to it, and it's not based on listening to the cultural art form. It's based upon an interpretation of a word and never having been exposed to the music, because or never even acknowledging that you've heard the music and you've liked it, you know. Certainly when you hear songs, and I say songs, you know, like Duke Ellington's I Didn't Know About You. I mean, that's just pretty. That's just, you know, it's almost impossible not to like it if you listen to it. But when you hear the word jazz and you don't affiliate, you know, these types of things with the music itself, when, you know, it's easy to say I don't like jazz, clear up until the time you hear Billy Taylor.
then you gotta stop.
Right.
Then you gotta like it.
Oh, I get it. It's not, some esoteric,
Exactly.
So
But
it's.
what I'm looking at is that with young musicians coming along, for example, last month at the PJS, we had a young guy playing jazz guitar, Solomon Hicks. He's just 19 years old, and he's really good.
Right.
And maybe they will not reach out, but they will communicate better with their peers.
Right.
And that'll bring those people in.
Right.
Because we would love to know that at least they're following people in their age group. It's not that everybody is, well, Beyonce is not as old as the group I'm thinking of, but in that younger age group, and so therefore I can only relate to them. There are many people your own age group who are doing other kinds of music.
Right.
And as a result, maybe you should listen to them.
Right. I just happen to think that the world is changing. That whereas I'm a geezer, so I tend to think of as the Beyoncés and the Kanyes as young people. Well, in terms of presenting an art form, they are actually more and more giving way to the next generation that's coming up. And the next generation seems to be far more sophisticated, far more interested in traditional art forms, far more forward thinking. I mean, I look at, my grandchildren and kids that are coming up now, they are just going back to a time and place that is requires that you know something and appreciate something on a global scale.
I hope that's the case, and if that is the case, then we need to encourage that and strengthen it and say, listen, here's my record collection. Listen to everything.
Right. Right.
And most public libraries today have CDs to lend you.
Right.
You go in the library and take out some CDs.
Right.
Who is this guy, Duke Ellington?
Right.
What's he? Let me listen to this.
Right.
Dizzy Gillespie. What's he about?
Oh,
what's Miles about?
Oh man.
Let them be curious. Let them explore.
Right.
And they'll persuade themselves. See, the whole thing is, you want to get away from the whole idea of pushing it on them.
Right.
This is good for you.
Right.
If you play some Dizzy stuff for them, they're gonna want to drink it up.
Right.
Right. And that's same as I like the Art Blakey's bands, the Messengers, because they're so driving rhythm. The hard bop is so clear and so sweet.
Hold that thought for a minute. We got a phone call. I'm sure somebody wants to ask a question of somebody who knows something
Ask away.
for once. So when you get a chance, put the call through.
Brother Wood, how you doing?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
All right, this is Brother Rod calling from Harlem.
Oh, what's up, brother? How you doing?
All right, listen, you guys are hitting my buttons today, and I'm getting ready to punch yours back because my father was with the Modern Jazz Quartet.
Ooh.
Connie Kay. He played
Wow.
with Percy Heath, Milt Jackson, John Lewis.
Oh man.
And my dad has been on some of the most influential records in music history. When you hear "Mess Around" Ray Charles, my dad was on the drums.
Wow.
When you hear "Shake, Rattle, and Roll" Big Joe Turner, my dad was on the drums.
Okay.
When you hear Johnny Mathis, "Chances Are," my dad was playing the drums. My dad's group has played with Sonny Rollins, Jimmy Giuffre, and some of their greatest hits, Django, The Cylinder, Bags Groove, Night in Tunisia, that's Dizzy Gillespie's classic.
Yeah, I know.
Thelonious Monk's classic. I was very fortunate to grow up around those cats, and those their music was actually the first music that I've listened to. I've since been I'm a classic R&B man, but my roots go back to Modern Jazz Quartet.
Wow, that's great.
Bratwaite's very familiar with them. So to have a show like this is very enlightening, and I hope jazz really does make a comeback, because it's music that really got everything started for.
Let me ask you a question. You have a lot to be proud of, but how would you encourage young people to explore jazz?
I didn't hear your question, sir.
How would you encourage young people to explore jazz?
Well, what I would do is, people need to go back and look at old clips, listen to old music, because, there's some of these people out here think that, it's all about them, and it's not. It's about the people that have laid out the foundation for them to do what they do. Even go back to, if you can't go back as far as Dizzy or Count Basie or Duke Ellington, listen to some Wynton Marsalis. Wynton Marsalis has the Jazz at Lincoln Center, and he's done a lot to keep jazz alive. And, go back to Billie Holiday and, cats you had heard you mention even Lou Donaldson. Just go back to the libraries, like you said, and pull out some of them old jazz.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Or jazz CDs and put them on and listen to them and read the sleeves and get the history, because our the jazz we have done more for jazz than most folks have, and our history in jazz is very rich, because
all right, I'm gonna cut you off, caller, because I got a couple of calls and we're getting a little short of time, and I want to make sure that we get back to John and what he's doing. But I really appreciate that. Also, I want to make sure that everyone knows how eloquent the brother is. That art, an appreciation of art, empowers you on a number of levels. But me making my little speech there. We have another call. I'm going to take this call and let the call get in, and then I'll give you a chance to let us know what you're doing. We still got some time. So, caller, if you're there, you can put the call through.
Yes.
Hi, caller. Good afternoon.
I can hardly hear you. How are you, Nat?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. Could you turn your speakers up just a little bit? I hear you. Keep talking, and we'll make adjustments as we can.
Good to see you on, man. I know you. I'm very polite. I did some shows there at Everett down there with Brothers by Choice, Not by Blood. And hello to your guest. I wanted to ask you a question. I used to work with a young lady, and she used to listen to a lot of jazz. My uncle played in a jazz quartet called Johnny Polite Quartet in Baltimore, Maryland. He's since gone, but he played with Eckstein, all the way down Miles, everybody. He played with everybody throughout 3 continents, from the 1920s to all the way up to almost to where he died about 10 years ago. And the young lady used to ask me. She said, how can you listen to music that has no words? And I was saying, would you listen to a song that has no music? So I'm asking you, gentlemen, how would you respond to a person that says they can't listen to music without any words?
Well, they
how
do.
Would you respond to somebody like that?
They do that all the time. When if you go to the movies, the music that sets the stage is not. There's no words behind it most of the time. If you go to a concert of other kinds of music, there's no words around it. What the person is saying is that they need to have some kind of orientation to what's going on. That's what the words do for them. Okay. But what I think would happen is if they understood the music better, if they sort of try to learn a little bit more about the music, what's going on, how it's constructed, and how it's performed, then they won't feel they had to have the anchor of the words to guide them.
Yeah, I think one of the primary things that we used to refer to is a word called soul. And soul required that you experienced things on a deeper level than just the superficial. And I think that if you really get into experiencing jazz, actually listen with your soul, you will appreciate the fact that the words are there. The words might not be written on a piece of paper so that you can recite the words. But if you've ever listened to Thelonious Monk play I Didn't Know About You, a Duke Ellington tune, you know what he's saying without a word. You know,
exactly.
Blues is like that. You hear a blues riff and you know this guy is pouring his heart out in a lyrical way, you know, but it requires that you come out of your own superficial shell and you know, appreciate the art form on a more on a more human level.
On the same the follow on to what you're saying, the person should be introduced to the Miles Davis ballads.
Right.
When you hear Miles Davis ballads, you will not even think about the lyrics because he is so lyrical in his playing that you will not need the guidance of lyrics, words.
Right. Especially when he was in his less is more phase, like Green Dolphin Street or So What.
Yeah.
You know, and Miles was so humble in his approach that he didn't even play the melody line in So What. He had the bass player play the melody line, and then he would just come in and play some sweet stuff. You know, if you play that, they'll appreciate the fact that the lyrics are there. It's in the soul, and if you just get in touch with that thing that we have abrogated, you know, you will find that it is spiritual, it is evident, and it is the gateway drug to jazz music itself.
I love the way you put that.
I appreciate your answer. Thank you very much, Nat, and your guest there. This is very nice, man. I really enjoyed this, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
yeah. Okay, we need you to let us know what's going on.
Let me. I have a couple of save the dates for you, and I want to bring your attention to the fact that the National Conference of Artists in New York is having their 2014 Arts and Cultural Conference. This is a pretty big conference here in New York City with a number of venues, and it's free. Did I say free? It is free.
Good price, the most righteous.
It starts on Tuesday, February 18th from 11 to 4:30 at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And there is a series of lectures and presentations there that day. And you will not want to miss it. There are going to be art panels, a museum exhibition tour, speakers, artists, and so on. Then following that week, on Friday, February 21st, from 3:30 to 5:30 at City College at the Great Hall, there will be an art panel and interdisciplinary art presentation. On Saturday, February 22nd, from 10 to 8:30 p.m. at Adam Clayton Powell State Office Building in Harlem, the second floor art gallery. There will be an NCA business meeting, panels, and so on. But there's a gallery show there.
When is that again?
On Saturday, the 22nd.
Saturday, 22nd. Okay.
Then on Sunday, the Association of Community-Based Artists of Westchester, referred to as ACBAW, ACBA. Center for the Arts, 128 South 4th Avenue in Mount Vernon, is having an art show there. And I'm representing that one too.
Excellent.
So I'm in 2 art shows in Mount Vernon concurrently.
Now, how can we access these dates for anyone who didn't have a pen handy and
if you go to your web browser and type in NCANEWYORK.org, you should get us. NCA New York, but New York written out. NCA New York.
NCA New York.
.org.
All right. NCA New York.
For the National Conference of Artists.
Yeah, if you can get as far as NCA New, it'll probably, your search engine will give you the rest of it. Pop that on, and you will get all the information you need about those events that are happening in the near future, and I'm sure it will be your gateway drug into finding out what's going to happen in the.
These conferences are wonderful. They're fun, very, very informative. Inga Hardison's going to be she's turning 100 years old. The sculptress, and she's going to be honored. It's going to be a wonderful time. Bring your friends, family, loved ones. They'll enjoy it, and do make it a point to get out there to some part of this. You will really enjoy it, and you will not be sorry you came.
Right. And I also guarantee that if you are more attentive to the development of your children, we will not win, we will not be successful. And this country, this world is in pandemonium. You have to be able to compete on levels that heretofore you didn't even have a precedent for, because the job market has eliminated millions and millions and millions of white people, you know. So you know that you really have to prepare yourself. And as much as we talk about the political system and the educational system, if we are not responsible for our children's education ourselves, if we do not take an active part in their development, they will undoubtedly be destroyed. They will fail. They will continue to have the problems they are having with violence against themselves, which is a form of self-hate. They will continue to have the prison industrial complex and police brutality with no hope of even addressing these things, because they have no reference and no educational background. So we have to get more and more involved in the development of our children.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it means that instead of waiting for others to do these things for us, we have to look around and see what's available to us and take advantage of those things.
Right.
If you go into a library, you'll see how sparsely it's used.
Right.
And that's a free resource right there.
Right. And we are spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for computer systems, and look at them, nothing but some sort of duck game or something, you know. Well,
along those lines, I've always maintained that we should try to encourage our kids not just to play the games, but learn how to write the games.
Correct.
And there is an organization of black data processing people in New York City area, and they can assist people in that area. They should look up BDPA.
Correct.
The Black Data Processing Association. They do that.
Correct.
So it's not that there's nobody there to help.
Right.
There are people there to help.
Right. And the people that we are answerable to, you know, because I used to help produce a show with the person who worked in the Carter administration. He's a Jewish person, and he's a billionaire. He's a real estate billionaire. The software and the things that he would expose his children to, the computer taught him multiple languages and multiple art forms.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the Koch brothers, as much as you argue about the Koch brothers and their agenda, and the fact that their agenda is not in the best interest of people of color, certainly not in the interest of poor people of color, poor people at all. But look, they donate millions of dollars to art institutions all over the world. You know, it's funny. You know, the richest people in the world, that 1%, that fraction of a 1%, they're always in the opera houses and you know, at the jazz concerts and at Carnegie Hall, and you know, so. You might not know the value of art, but they certainly do, irrespective of whether what they tell you about what should or should not be in the school system that teaches your kids. They supply the arts. They make sure that their children are well versed in the arts.
And we must be careful about that, because it means then that the things that they support continue to get support, and if they turn their attention away from what is important to us, what we have and what is important to us will wither.
Right.
So we got to be very mindful of that. We must get out there and, with our little nickels and dimes, support our own stuff, because otherwise you get the other guy's choice.
Oh, You know, what you said is so very, 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 very valuable. We have to support ourselves. We have to support our growth, our development, our survival. And if we do not do this,
you'll lose.
We'll lose. We'll lose. We'll lose. You know.
Because when somebody else is given a choice, they pick what they like.
Right. Right.
And if we're not there making the choice, or at least helping to steer the choice, we will never get what we like.
Right, right.
I mean, it's very, very basic.
Right, 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 right. Jazz is very popular in countries other than the United States. It's amazing. You know, you go to Asia, you go to Japan or like Europe, you know, artists that we know nothing about are almost deified and whatnot. You know, I mean,
that's true.
You know,
that's true. But you see, that's partly because the American society is hamstrung by its cultural biases, and as a result, they are not willing to really extend the kind of support to jazz artists and artists, homegrown artists. Other countries not being hampered by those cultural constraints, put it nicely, can freely go out and say, I can see this is good, and I want this. They don't have to say, well, we can't support that because this person's from here. They don't have that.
Right, right.
So they are free, and the more you know, the freer you can be. And if you're free of those kinds of biases and prejudices that come with the American template, then you can truly be free and do things. But as long as you have to think there's dare I try this because, you know, they're white and I'm black or something like that, you are never going to be free to do things. And they in turn will not want to support you because, well, didn't we help enough blacks this time? And so and it becomes a rationing. But we created this art form.
Right.
We need to control it.
Right, right. I saw on YouTube a thing with, and they're putting together this movie of Nina Simone. And I really don't think that they actually checked out Nina Simone, because Nina Simone wasn't coincidentally black. She was defiantly black.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I saw this clip of Nina Simone, and she was being interviewed. And she talked about being black, and the interview reeked with pride and assertiveness, and you know, and it was all through her art. There was, you know, there was nothing demure about her sense of beauty and pride in her blackness, you know. And she was, like I said, she wasn't like sort of black. She was black, and all of this passion and expression came out in the art form, and she defined the art form by who she was. She didn't define who she was by the art form.
Right.
And I'm not sure if, I'm hoping that when they make the movie they can convey this. The point I wanted to make was that somewhere along the line we have gone to a place where we are almost, I hate to say, ashamed of who we are, you know. But we have bought into some sort of strange concept that we have made no contributions to anything, and that we can't do anything unless the dominant society, for lack of a more subtle way of saying it, allows us to do something that, you know, we have abrogated free will.
Of course, you're right. But look at it this way. If you take a step back and look, if you see the areas where we never felt that we were restrained, sports, the areas of music, and certain areas, we flourish. So it is that because people are too timid to be to be dominant in an area, they hold back. So we should be as successful in math and science as we are in music and sports.
Right, right, right.
But we find that people think, well, I can't do that. Well, how do you know you can't do that? Well, they told me I can't do that.
Right.
And they buy into that. You know, I've had so many people tell me I can't do math.
And the funny part is that they actually do not know their history. Because if they knew their history, they would know that we have excelled in all of those fields.
Correct.
You know,
until we were told we couldn't.
Correct. That the cell phone that that everybody is on 24 hours a day, no matter where they go, was brought to you by a black person. Brought a major part of the technology and the concept of this thing to the arena. That when we almost wrapping up here, and I'm just getting warmed up. You see me? I'm sitting up in my chair. But we got about less than a minute, so I want you to reiterate what you're doing. You know.
Okay, first.
And then I'm gonna get you back here when I'm and I'm gonna be like this. You know.
First, I just want to encourage everybody to come out to the Desron Douglas New Jazz Workshop concert on February 9th. You will not be sorry, especially if you want to encourage some young person and teach them about jazz. These are younger musicians, and they will really enjoy what they hear. And don't forget the NCA conference, February 18th through the 23rd. The various venues I told you about, but the 18th is at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and you must come out. It's a beautiful place to go. It's just a wonderful place, and it's going to be a wonderful afternoon day. So, look forward to seeing you.
It has been my pleasure to have John Brathwaite here. We're going to bring him back. He's going to show you some of his photography. We're also going to drag some of his people here because he hangs out with extraordinary people. In the words of Marcus Garvey, up ye mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. We'll see you next week. Peace. We out.